So today we're joined by Penny. Penny, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Kelly. Yes, I'm Penny Dee. So I have a couple of roles in life, but I'm an author, a radio presenter, and a business owner.
Wow, it's a bit like me. I've got loads of stuff on the go as well.
Yeah.
And just to let you know, if my hair's flying around, it's because I've got my fan on. It's absolutely roasting today. But I was very pleased when you joined the podcast to hear that you've got I'm going to say Geordie accent, but you're actually from Hartlepool, so not quite Geordie.
Yeah, Teesside, where we're from, Kelly, that would be a big deal, wouldn't it? But, we don't mind on the wider context.
And we've got matching necklaces on. We didn't plan that either, did we?
I know, it's a good job I didn't wear my green top because I normally do.
Well, this is actually a dress, but you can't tell, can you?
It's lovely, though.
Thank you. Right. So we met on LinkedIn, didn't we?
We did, funnily enough.
All those DEI people going, we're going to ignore the Supreme Court ruling, and I think that's how we met. I can't remember.
I think it was, and I think it was the whole period we had on the run up to the Supreme Court, and then the time after it has been fascinating on LinkedIn. I go in and out of LinkedIn, actually, because I always found it incredibly far left, very restrictive around speech. I used to use it a lot more in my corporate career, but I just didn't see much point to it. And what was fascinating about the Supreme Court and then the people involved and some of the fallout around that, in particular, a lady we both know. I don't know if you got to know her, Janet, but...
Yeah, Janet's been on the podcast.
Oh, she's fantastic, isn't she? What a woman.
I met her a few weeks ago at Let Women Speak as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And I remember saying she was quite new to it, so perhaps when she got cancelled in the most just horrible way, I had a lot of sympathy for her. And then when the court ruling came in, which I'll be honest, Kelly, I don't know whether you were or not, but I honestly didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't.
No, I didn't. And in fact, I hadn't really taken very much notice of it. I didn't really know that it was coming. Somebody mentioned it to us and I was like, oh, what's that? And it was actually on a podcast and I was going, oh, what's that? And then I thought, it probably won't make any difference. They're only going to clarify the law. And in terms of the law, it hasn't made any difference. However, I think it's made a difference in that women are more confident now. They've got something to go. Yeah. You can't do that.
It's true. I was aware of it. I'm in the WRN as well.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of chatter around it. A bit like you, though, Kelly, I sort of was ignoring it a little bit because I couldn't even contemplate a loss on it. Funnily enough, the day before the ruling, I was interviewing the lovely Baroness Claire Fox. I don't know if you know Claire.
She's
and we were chatting about it. And she said, don't forget, it's because it was early doors, I think, the next day. And I just was saying, like, I don't think I can look. Like, I don't think I can look. And, I stayed off the WhatsApp group, the WRN WhatsApp group, kind of deliberate. I stayed off everything because I just thought I've got too much stuff to do. And if it doesn't go our way, it'll ruin my day. Not going to be productive. And Claire texted me and went, we've won. And I was like, what? And I remember looking on the WhatsApp group at WRN and I was going, what? The whole of the UK then? They haven't just pocketed it for Scotland and they were like, no. And I couldn't believe it. And I think we all thought things would be a lot more different. They have been different though, in a good way.
I think it's just taken a long time. I think they're just taking a long time to accept that they've been wrong.
I think we will know about this, that language really matters, Kelly, and I'm forever correcting people's language. And one of the ones that I've had to do a lot since the clarification of the Supreme Court ruling was there's no change in the law. It has clarified the law. And I think that's a really important point, that the issue has been around your Stonewalls and lots of other activist organisations. They've really misled a lot of people, and the anger should be squarely pointed, I think, at their doorstep, those organisations.
So tell us, when did you first realise there was a problem?
So very interestingly, I'm trying to get my timelines right, maybe about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And late to the party, like a lot of us, always rolled along, very much like many libertarian women, very live and let live. So we have a clinic as one of our businesses as well. One of the services is laser hair removal, and we've often had trans clients there. And I was very much involved in, years ago about trans clients, like how do you speak to them, what pronouns do you use? And I was always like, well, just, and I would go, well, until the name changed, and then if you had to use a pronoun, use the female pronoun if it was male. And anyway, so that was just how you rolled along. Everybody really had Haley Cropper in their mind. We had this sad little poor disadvantaged man. And I used to think it must be awful to think that you were born in the wrong body. Obviously,
That's the thing,
nobody
though.
is
Haley Cropper
born
is actually a woman.
a woman.
So
And
it's not hard to think that she's a woman because she is one.
because she and she is one. And that's a really important point. I've since been told that she was a bit of a plant, that role. And it was because this has been going on a long
Yeah.
time. And it was a deliberate ruse to use a woman so that as women, we have a natural predisposition to, empathise with women more. And she was a woman. So I think Haley Cropper, that character, did more damage to women's rights than pretty much anything else I can think of, because there was little Haley and Roy and they were just trying to live their life and, all this sort of stuff, that narrative. And I think that's what a lot of us thought, we just thought, well, for the amount of men that you would see infringing on our spaces, it didn't really happen. I can't think of a time it did actually. So it wasn't ever front of mind. And I peaked when I'd sort of noticed there was a lot more stuff. There was Bruce Jenner and more of that kind of stuff in the news. And I was watching Piers Morgan and Kelly J. Keane was on there. And I'd seen her around and was interested in her, but I'd never really listened to the conversation. And I watched that. And it was like somebody just flicked a switch in my head. And I realised how we'd been deceived, all of us. And really, I think it's like the Matrix. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it anymore,
Yeah. I think it took me a lot longer because I think I saw those clips and I don't like on This Morning and I'm not a vet, but I know what a dog is. I think I saw those, but I just didn't take any notice.
Yeah. And why do you think you didn't take any notice? Was it that you weren't ever coming across a scenario where you felt in any way?
I don't know. I've really kicked myself now because when I look back, like this stuff has been in my life for a long time. But it came in and out. So it was like situations that were passing, not like I didn't know of someone for like a long time. It was like situations that happened and then the time moved on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't until, lockdown really opened my eyes actually. I'd been building my business, so I wasn't looking at anything. And when people started going, oh, this thing's coming, I was like, they're just overreacting like they did with bird flu and all the rest of it. And then everything shut down and I was like walking around going, do you not think this is a bit of an overreaction? And everyone was just like,
yeah,
I'm going to go and work from home and all of that. Yeah, and so then I've worked right through it. And as the time went on and they didn't reopen after the lockdown, they said it was 3 weeks to flatten the curve and it didn't. And then I started digging. And then my husband saw a clip of Kelly J because she'd had the police at her door for being untoward about paedophiles. And that's when I took notice. But also I'd heard stuff during because I was going to the lockdown freedom marches in London at that time. I think I went to 4 of them or something like that. And I had one of my friends who was going to London had a child who was going and she was saying, well, I can't get a hysterectomy, but my daughter can get a double mastectomy. Why? Like, it doesn't make sense. So, yeah, and she told me a lot about it, and then I saw that, but I didn't really understand it still until I went to Let Women Speak in Newcastle. So when I went there and I heard all the different stories from women, I was just like, oh my God. But at that point, I was still like really uncomfortable about
So how come you went to the Let Women Speak then if you
Because
were...
one of my friends who I knew from the lockdown things had been following her and said, "Oh, she's coming. Who wants to go?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm curious. I want to go and see what's going on." And I remember being there next to the Civic Centre, cringing at all this straight, plain language. And I was going, "Hang on a minute. Why are you uncomfortable? Is it a lie? No. Well, why? Like, what is it?" And then that was when it started to unravel, and I really realised.
So it was listening to the straight talk
Yeah.
and challenging yourself as
And
to why you felt...
afterwards, if you remember that Let Women Speak, there was Lisa Morgan who was talking about hypnotherapy and how you repeat like 3 times, and trans women are women and all of that. And she talked about the big lie and talked about Mein Kampf. And of course, Pink News just took that and twisted it. And I was like, I was on Facebook going, "Oh, they've got the wrong end of the stick, so I'll just put them right." And I didn't realise.
Did you try and put Pink News right?
All these people on Pink News in the comments. Big mistake, I got threatened in me DMs.
Yeah, who by? Some nice, lovely woman. Crystal, or insert other stripper name.
Well, yeah, the person was called Jade Clouting.
Right.
It was a big bloke in drag, that's what it looked like. And yeah, claimed that I hadn't said anything wrong, but he knew what I was thinking. And he'd looked me up and he was
It's a
gonna...
good skill,
he
isn't it?
threatened
Mind
me.
reading, yeah.
Yeah, he threatened me.
threatened you?
So I did keep quiet for quite a while until I figured out what was going on. And then I just like, I can't keep quiet about this. And then, of course, the election and that opportunity to stand for Party of Women. And that's when I came out. And I did post a bit on LinkedIn, but didn't really know anybody who was out on LinkedIn. Out.
Right.
What a word to use, but yeah, anybody who was out on LinkedIn. So I knew that if I got piled on, I wouldn't have any backup. So it wasn't until I started connecting with more people. And then the Supreme Court judgment happened, and that was it. I was away on LinkedIn.
You were away with yourself. You had, so about, I'm just trying to think of the timelines, maybe just over 2 years ago, I released my first book. I say first book because I'm writing that difficult second one, Kelly. So yeah, bear with me on that. And my first book was called Queens. And it's because in my clinic, it's women that I deal with, 99.9%. I'd noticed all of these trends about women and what they talk about now, where I am, and my demographic, it's mostly middle class, white, middle-aged women. That's what I know. That's what I am. But I noticed recurring themes. There was variation in some of maybe the incomes and whether some were stay at home and some worked or business owners, but like a number of themes recurred on it. And there were things like, but all menopause, mothers. Now I don't speak to my mother. Children, to have children, not to have children. Now I don't have children. I never wanted children. So there was these really core themes, gender pay gap, stuff like that. And I've always definitely been what you would call a feminist. So I would say like I am a true feminist in that I'm not a particular flavour of feminism. I believe in equality of thought.
Yeah.
Of opinion and things like that. So I've never thought anyone's better than me, and I don't think I'm better than anyone else. And I don't discriminate against anyone because I treat everybody the same. So that's like my flavour of feminism. So I was really peaking with Kenny J at that time, really chimed with that. I appreciated her fierceness and bravery. And so when I was writing my book, on the front of it, I put for adult human females because, as a nod to her, because these things that I was talking to women about, they were peculiar only to women because it was about how we're brought up, about what happens to us when we don't even know. These are things that you don't see. But it's a really nice book. It's not a big tome or anything. It's just really conversations that I've had. I make some conclusions, and really I'm about breaking down stereotypes, like why do you think like that, why can your mum bully you, or whatever it was. And I put on the front for adult human females, and I spoke to a publisher about an independent publisher I work with on it, and I was like, that's what I want to say. And I was educating her in what was going on, and she's like, go with it if you're going to go with it. And at the time, having my own business and stuff like that, you do worry about being cancelled when you're
Yeah,
self-employed because it's your livelihood. And I sort of thought, I don't know what to do. And I thought, no, I'm going to have to because I can't not, I know what I'm like. And we went with it. Just as I were on the run up to the launch, so I used to advertise in a group of 28,000 women, might have been a bit more than that actually. And it was for salon clinic owners. It was 99% women in the group and all different classes of women. But that was the one thing we all had in common. I'd known the organiser of the groups for many years and lots of the women on there for many years. And I put the advert up for my book, right? Coming soon, it was due out. The book was ready. It was all very exciting. And I got this message saying, we've had a complaint about your book. And I was like, well, that's funny because it's not even out yet. So I don't know how anyone could be complaining about it. And and they didn't really understand it. And she was saying, yeah, someone said it's activist speak. And I was like, well, it's a book for women written by a woman. And that's the Oxford Dictionary definition of a woman, pretty much. And that's who it's for. It's not for people who identify as a woman. And it's not for women who identify out of being a woman. It's about being a woman. And that's why it says that on the front. It's pretty self-explanatory,
Yeah.
And it went back and forth for about an hour. Yeah, I know. Well, we didn't really understand the nature. I knew who'd complained about it as well because she is a gobby lesbian who her partner looks like a man and is clearly taking a lot of testosterone. And that was her pet thing, banging on about trans, and she would pick fights with everybody, right? So I knew who it was. They didn't tell me initially who it was, but I did find out for sure it was her. And interestingly, being a lesbian, I wondered how she felt about sucking female cock and whether that was going to work for her one day, because she would be called a bigot if she didn't want to do that. But anyway, so I just sort of went back and forth, and I went like, I still don't really understand the nature of the complaint. Like, I sort of did, but I wanted it explaining to me.
Yeah, you have to draw them out, don't you?
You do, and they didn't really know, but it interested. And I know the woman who ran the group, and interestingly, she said, and there's a group of moderators who all know me, and they all know I'm not a bigot, and XYZ, and anti-trans, and all that. She said, but we've realised you'll have to take the advert down. That's all, just you can't advertise that. And I went, so I've got to take my advert down to a group of women. And she went, well, we knew one of you'd be upset, but the other one's a gobshite, right? More than me. And I went, understood. I said, just think really carefully when you try and stop women speaking, when you restrict women's speech. And I said, I'm pulling all of my advertising, so fuck off. I paid them however much, I can't remember how much it was a month, but I just cancelled it all and just left the group.
Good
I
for
just
you.
said, this is not for me. And I knew it was. And then funnily enough, about a week later, I got jumped on by a load of trans on my Instagram, I think it was. And again, I'd launched a book and it's trans, Crystal or whatever he was called. I'm trans. This is a message, is your book good for me to read? And I was like, absolutely, you should read this book. Yeah, you should. I am trans. I've gone back to your profile and noticed that your whole, you've tagged Kelly J. Keane, I had like a POW cup and some other bits and bobs. And I put, yeah, I really like her videos. You can buy the book if you want. She wants to keep me out of private spaces, but I just wouldn't get drawn into it because I've been involved in it for long enough to know what language to use and stuff where, I wasn't going to get drawn into it, but I wasn't going to back down.
Yeah.
And because I stood my ground with it, he just went away and then another one popped up and it was the same rubbish and all that. And I was like, if you don't like it, just don't buy it. And if there's loads of trans books, buy one of them.
Yeah.
You can read it or not read it. It doesn't really matter to me. But what I will say, Kelly, for all of my sort of bravado about it, it shook me up because I thought, how could that woman on that group who runs the group, who knows me, instead of having a debate, I'd have had a debate about it on the group. Like, why would anybody find the definition of a woman offensive, which I'm sure Kelly Jane, lots of people have been asking themselves, because that implies that being a woman is either offensive or that somebody finds being a woman offensive. And if that is the case, why is that the case? That's the
Yeah.
question we should be asking,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
don't you dare use the definition of a woman. And that just made me double down
Yeah.
after that.
It really upsets them, that word, doesn't it? And I know,
Interesting.
like, over the years as well, I've come across a lot of young women who don't like the word woman. They want to be called girls, but to me, I don't want to be called a girl, especially like as when you start having relationships. You don't want to be called a girl when you're in a relationship because you shouldn't be having relationships with girls. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Men shouldn't be in relationship with girls. They
No,
should be in relationship with women. So
with women.
I find that really, they're blurring the boundaries. And young women don't like the word woman because they think of like middle-aged women and grannies, and do you know what I mean?
Oh, so I mean, I
It's an
haven't.
age thing.
Yeah, I hadn't come across that. I mean, I am guilty of calling my girlfriends my girls or
Yeah.
whatever, but I wouldn't describe myself as a girl.
No.
Like I'm definitely a woman
Uh-huh.
and proud of it. And I think that was another thing I'd noticed, just a dampening of language, around things. And I have been in the trenches, right, on Twitter. I mean, I've got a sock account, obviously, because we all had to, we all had to
Yeah,
have sock
yeah.
accounts then. And I still do that. I get up to some mischief on, obviously. And I work on the radio as well. So that was the other thing. I hadn't got the gig at the radio. I got that actually from my book. And, the guys who own the station are gay. I have, loads of gay friends. I don't think being trans got anything to do with being gay.
No, it hasn't.
And another, apart from the Haley Cropper effect, another really clever thing that was done by the activists a long time ago was to attach the trans stuff, I'm going to say stuff because it's so nebulous, onto, sex-based, rights. I mean, I don't know about you, Kelly, either, but I don't really need to know who anybody sleeps with across the
No.
board, right? It's like me, I'm straight, and I walk into a room, go, hi, I'm Penny, now I'm straight, and I just want everybody to respect that, okay? I like to have sex with my husband who's a man. So now we've all got that out of the way, and it's why,
It's
nobody would do
irrelevant,
that.
isn't it?
Totally
Unless you're
irrelevant. I don't
dating,
need
it's
to know.
irrelevant.
Yeah, just don't need to know at all. And over the years, I've had my dalliances with women as well, been very sexually fluid over the years, but I still don't call myself bisexual or gay, and I don't brandish myself straight because, again, it's just not really anybody's business
No, it isn't.
at all. So I've
Yeah.
never understood this sort of identity politics anyway. It's the least interesting thing about somebody is who they sleep with.
Yeah, this intersectionality really boils me blood because they go on about being inclusive while they're excluding people.
Women. And I think actually my lesbian sisters, they're the ones who've probably come off the worst from gender ideology, actually.
Yeah.
Because they are everything that men hate. There's two camps. There's women. These men hate women. I mean, they're just misogynists anyway, but they hate beautiful women and confident women and women who are pretty fearless anyway. And then they also hate, and then they think they can hurt those women because they're men and we date men or whatever that is, or whatever that is about trying to hurt you, or based on your looks or whatever it is. And then when they realise that you don't sleep with men, then you are beneath contempt because they don't have any power over you. So whether you're beautiful, so lesbians are seen as less than irrelevant. They don't really want to look like your classic lesbian. And you know what I mean by that, in that, women who are attracted to women, as a general rule, tend to throw off the patriarchal stuff, so they won't dress for men as much.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they don't like to look after themselves, but that view of sexuality that we have as a straight person is different to one we have as a homosexual person or a gay person. So they have superpowers when it comes to dealing with men, lesbians do, because they don't care about their opinions.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them so powerful, and that's why they are so hated. That's
Yeah.
my unpolitically correct view on it, and it's why, and again, I'm generalising a little bit because you have to, because I don't know
Yeah.
everybody in
Yeah.
the world, but the hatred and the eradication of lesbians by
Yeah.
these men is how anyone can't see it. So the compassionate left who call us all Nazis. I mean, I never really thought about being a Nazi before. I got called a different word for a Nazi actually a few months ago. My husband had to look it up, and it's something to do with it's like an old German. Anyway, it's because I've got blonde hair, blue eyes, and my husband's got blue eyes. So it's some
Is it
really going back
Aryan?
to where it's not Aryan. It's an older word than Aryan, but it's to do. It's down that line. But
Right.
actually, the word itself, when you look at the actual word, isn't an insult. So it was
Right.
really interesting. It was about how we looked, but it wasn't like Nazi or anything. It was, I must find out what word it is, because even my husband was like, what's this? And it's like, and it's the way that insults are thrown around based on how people look and,
Yeah. Yeah. They've
stuff
started
like that.
calling me a man a lot. And I'm like, yeah, of course I'm a man.
Now, sorry, Kelly, what I find utterly fascinating about that, if you were a man, aren't you a beautiful trans woman? I mean, is that not what we're
Well,
saying?
exactly.
Are they saying that trans women don't look like women? Is that what they're saying? Because that
Yeah,
would
that's
be a little
absolutely what
bit.
they're saying.
So that's odd, isn't it? Because I thought they
J.K.
were
Rowling
stunning
put
and
it the
brave.
best. I can't remember her quote, but she had a really good quote about that. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
quote that at someone.
It's just nonsense, and it doesn't make any sense. And like you say, the scary thing is that if you look at someone like Claire Fox, actually, who was always very left, that was her whole thing, socialist work party sort of vibes and socialism and all of that. And, she was saying they used to do marches against racism, and she often gets called, obviously, far right
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Nazi and all that usual stuff. And we were saying, actually, the old left that would have campaigned for a woman's right to be, if you look at Sandy Peggy, and I'm using Sandy because she's relevant at the moment, but all of those women who, it's unthinkable what she's been put through, and
I know.
women on the left are supporting a bloke, and it's unbelievable, and that's what I find the hardest to believe, is that I'm saying the old left, because there is no left or right anymore, I don't
No,
think.
no, I
Because
agree.
is it woke? It's not really woke, is it? I don't know what we call it anymore, Kelly.
No.
I don't know if you've got any words for it. But
Stupid, insane,
yes,
ridiculous.
yes. And what I find the most disturbing is the lack of knowledge, which I blame on schools and institutions, because they are teaching nonsense. I mean, if you look at things like, there's loads I could go into. Things around Britain's past, that we're all now supposed to be ashamed of being British because of
Yeah,
slavery, which, I mean, I do remind people frequently, we abolished slavery, right?
yeah,
So, that doesn't make any sense.
yeah,
Slavery is still huge in Emirates and other, places around there. Really, we're the least of people's worries. And again, we abolished it at great cost to our empire at the time.
yeah,
And I would say we're probably one of the least racist countries, there are. So how anybody could level race at the UK. And it's because there's none of that history's being taught. And that's the issue. And feminism isn't being taught, and equality in its truest sense. Equality, you'll know this speaking to DIP,
yeah,
has been
yeah,
replaced with equity now, which
yeah. I
a lot of
hate the word equity.
people think it means equality, and
No,
you and I know it doesn't actually. And
no,
that's what's being used as a proxy for it.
yeah, yeah.
Bizarre.
I don't like the word equity. It's popping up a lot.
Yeah.
And it means that people get opportunities regardless of their merit. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? That's what I don't think that's fair. If someone's good at something, then they should excel.
Yeah, it means that, yeah, that other people are actively discriminated against. And I guess it fits in with how women are being discriminated against, have been with the gender stuff. And then, one of the things that's really on my mind at the moment is the level of uncontrolled migration that we've got.
Yeah.
And what I'm observing in that, this is another thing where, if you just look across the board at what is going on to women's rights, again, because we are importing people who do not share our values, nobody cares what colour their skin is, right? Nobody cares what colour the skin is, what country they're from, actually, or any of that stuff. It's how they conduct themselves. And if we go back to Martin Luther King, actually, I think he's classed as racist now, Kelly, because he asks
Really?
people to be judged on their, their actions and what they say and do, and not on the colour of their skin. So, that's racist now because, equity and stuff like that. And some of the things we're seeing where I am actually is close to Altrincham. And there's been a lot of protests around there. One of the local hotels in the town centre has been taken over. And the number of sexual assaults and problems in the area is massive. And, fathers are having to walk their children to school because these guys are just hanging around outside of the schools. It's bang in the middle of two schools, girls' schools, one of them. And, the fact that dads are having to walk their girls home from school, and when the police are being called about it, they're not doing anything. And we get back to what are British values, and today is, when we're recording, is Victory in Japan Day. Massive turning point. It ended the war, actually, and things like that. And those soldiers fought for us to have freedom of speech, freedom of expression, all of the things, equality for women and everybody. Actually, it wasn't just about women, obviously, but it was
Yeah.
that freedom of, we didn't want to live under a Nazi regime, which a lot of people forget. They were the socialists, as I keep
Yeah, yeah.
reminding people.
I
Actually, they were
know.
the Socialist Party, by the way.
Well, I mean, yeah, because that's what I've highlighted before on social media, and I said I wanted to check that I was right before I said it. So I checked with my husband, and I said, so if I said that the Nazis were socialists, would I
Yeah,
be correct? And he said yes.
yeah.
But apparently it is more complicated than that, but I don't understand how, so I'm not gonna pretend that I do know.
It is, yeah, and you can't get back into all that stuff. But from a high level, they were the
Yeah.
socialist part. That's what Nazis stands for,
I don't think there's
socialist.
an agreed definition of what far right is and what left is. What my husband says is far right. Well, what my husband says is right wing is small government and the responsibility on the individual.
Yeah,
So people keep more of their money and make their own decisions. Whereas the left is more about the government looking after you, which obviously is what we've got. It's becoming
mhm.
a lot more authoritarian. But I don't think there's a consensus over what we mean by those terms.
I think interestingly, I've spoken to some younger people recently. I've been at pains actually to tell them that I'm on the right. I've always been centre right. That's how I've
Yeah,
always been. And you can see them wincing because they don't understand that right is just a side of politics that you're
yeah,
on.
yeah,
There was left and right, well, there used to be. It's like the uni party now. But there used to be, you were politically left or right, and neither
yeah.
was a dirty word.
No,
That's just what you were. And to say, to use the term far right, I've yet to see anybody really give me an example of anything that's going on at the moment that's far right. I mean, if you look at the hotel, the migrant demonstrations, they're all women dressed in pink being called Nazis by people clutching, very uniform looking signs
yeah,
that look very professionally made, and they're all the same all over the country, which is interesting. And they're hurling abuse at these women who just have this genuine concern for the safety of their daughters. Equality means that we're all treated equally. And one of the important points actually about gender and the gender ideology is we are not the same. Men and women
yeah.
we absolutely should celebrate our differences. Women are physically less, that we're physically weaker, but we have other skills. And if you take it right back, the social contract is men protect women, and in return, we will give them children and we will create a stable environment for them. I'm going right back to,
Yeah.
Adam and Eve sort of time. But that was a social contract. And women actually, when you look at some of the nonsense that we're seeing around like Islam and things at the moment, and how like Islamists actually, not necessarily just bog standard Islam, this subjugation of women. And actually, I watched, interestingly, we watched Andrew Tate the other night. And this is, I found him hilarious, right? Because he's like a parody. This is the old thing about free speech. You've got to let people speak, because the fear around Andrew Tate, have you ever actually heard him
I
speak
have. I've
freely
listened
for an
to him
hour?
and I was like, I don't understand why people are so upset.
He's pretty thick as well. Like, he contradicts himself constantly. His accent is very
Weird.
distracting. Yeah. And we were watching it, and we were watching the Bonnie Blue stuff actually, because I was reading Kathleen Stock's Unheard article about it, so we wanted to watch it. We listened to her on Heretics on Andrew Gould's podcast, and again we were like, there's some pretty basic stuff. She doesn't understand certain words and stuff like that. Is she, like, she's obviously a good businesswoman, but I wonder what her background is. It was just a bit odd. And I wasn't going to watch the documentary, but we decided to watch it, and she mentioned on that about the Andrew Tate stuff. So we were down that rabbit hole then, Kelly. We were like, right, well, what would Andrew Tate, because I think he's converted to Islam. He's very clear about how he wants his women to behave. He says all the time that he's not gay, so he clearly is.
Yeah.
And it's a really weird dynamic that he's got, because he's so contradictory, So we
I
watched
just
it.
think when he says stuff about women, he's just like a old school, like, I'm going to show off about how manly I am, and I wouldn't take any notice of that, so what?
And he did keep contradicting himself, which I found fascinating. He looked like he was flirting with Bonnie Blue. He obviously fancied her. Maybe. I don't know. It was really odd. But as we were watching it, I said to my husband, he's quite funny, actually, isn't he? I said, I don't know whether he's supposed to be funny, but he is quite amusing. Like, he's not the big bad bogeyman. Like, he's like a misguided, he's obviously somebody broke his heart 20 years ago and he's never really got over it. That's what I think about him. I don't know about any of the stuff that's going on legally with him, but I didn't find him particularly like intimidating character or anything. He was a bit pathetic.
The thing about him being targeted by law enforcement, or however you want to put it, lots of people who aren't saying the things that the establishment want them to say. So I'm very suspicious of anyone who's been targeted like that.
I mean,
not of them,
100%.
of the motivation behind it.
Motivation, yeah. Because but he's an interesting character, and we said it just goes to show why you should allow people a platform and you should let them speak. Because if our sons were watching Andrew Tate with us, and I was just going, oh my God, he sounds like bloody Keith Floyd. Do you remember Keith Floyd going in and out of this like American accent, and then he'd be Canadian and British, and it was like really distracting, and I found it really funny, like how he spoke was just really weird, and he kept he's so contradictory what he was talking about, but actually missed a really important point, and it's where I come from with women actually. And I believe this very much so. I believe in the feminine divine. So I believe that women are the most powerful. And that's why, if you look at certain religions, Islam being one of them, where women are constantly dimmed down and pushed down and treated like property, subjugated, it's so obvious what's happening, and it's so obvious why certain men do it. And you just know that if all women, a bit like the gender stuff, just stood up and said, this is not acceptable, we're not doing it, because they're nasty little bullies. Like, most bullies just bugger off when you stand up to them. And that's one of the heartbreaking things about it. We were out, the weather's beautiful at the moment. Oh, God, our phones. And I was out walking a local beauty spot here this week, and it really upset me. There was a man, Asian couple, and he had shorts on and summer clothes, and she was absolutely head to foot.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart. She even had glasses on, so
Yeah.
even there was no air getting to any of her. She had the thing over her, and I
Yeah.
found it really upsetting. She was walking behind him, pushing a pushchair with a little child in it, and she had all of the bags and was carrying all of the stuff. And he was strutting about in front of her. And I was with the WRN women actually who felt equally as uncomfortable. Now, I think that's a really good example, right, of that's a natural reaction, because that, to me, that is a man saying that woman is completely under my control and she cannot even speak without my authorization, and actually I am going to sensory deprive her so badly she has no confidence. And
Yeah.
that is what that says to me. And the fact that we all just look at that and go, well, maybe she wants to wear it. She doesn't want to wear it. It
No.
was red hot. No woman wants to wear it.
Yeah. So behind me, I've got the face covering that we all wore at Let Women Speak a few months ago.
Yeah.
And it was a really hot day.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there was sweat pouring down my face. It was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And like, people couldn't see me when I smiled.
Yes.
Women were saying, oh, well, I couldn't eat or drink anything. I couldn't blow my nose.
Yeah.
And of course, I do vlogs when I'm at Let Women Speak. So I'd vlog the day. They got loads of interaction. Women want that. That's what they want to do. And then I did another video, like just talking about what had happened and how the experience was. And I got reported to my counselling professional body. Well, it wasn't just for that, but and there was a screenshot of me wearing that.
And what's the problem with that exactly?
Apparently,
then?
I'm racist.
Yeah, see, nothing means anything anymore, does it?
It was mainly about being gender critical. I don't really like that term, but
No, I don't.
it's the legally
Sex
sex
realist.
realist. Yeah, I don't really like the term, but that's the bit that's in law. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, my gender critical views. There was 4 of them piled on us from LinkedIn, but I mean, I stripped me LinkedIn right back because I knew it was going to happen because I'd been poking so many people.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I like to use ONS figures, actually. That's one of the things they are good for, to make my points, particularly on LinkedIn. What we'll say about that is the footage from that event was on Instagram. So
Yeah.
I commented on it and just said it breaks my heart to see women forced. We do a lot with the Afghanistan women who, in Iraq now the age of consent is 9. These are the people we are talking about here, right? And interestingly, I obviously got piled on that by commenting, and it's hilarious. I always go back to a couple of them just to make my point so that it's public, because I obviously don't give a shit. And they were all Asian guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they all were saying, well, I've had a look at your profile. Look at the state of you. It was something like, you look at all the fillers and all the whatever you've got, whatever it was. It was all criticising my looks. And I was like, well, number one, I don't dye my hair blonde or use fillers for my husband. Actually, I do it for me. And by the way, dyeing your hair blonde and putting a bit of filler in your face doesn't hide bruises, actually. So what point are you making? Like, what's your point? But then there was the nonsense about nuns. I was like, well, the difference being that the women who wear a veil as a nun have chosen to give their life to Christ, and they made a conscious decision to do that and not interact actually with the world at large. So that's not a comment. And there was some women who were saying, I don't wear it, but I would like to wear it. I was like, well, why don't you wear it then if you want to wear that? I don't know any woman who would wear that, right? And it upsets me actually seeing women, particularly on these hot days, where they've only got this part of their face showing as well, because they're only doing it because they think that men can't. They've been told that men will rape them, and it'll probably be their fault.
That.
Well, of course it doesn't. And I think we're looking at the wrong person's behaviour to be modified here, aren't we? Because You know, it's just so insane. I've got a real problem with it. And, you know, even
Yeah.
when France bans a burqa and lots of other countries do, because it is against our beliefs. We do not believe in subjugating women.
Yeah.
That is the bottom line, right? That is the bottom line. You can practice whatever religion you want. It's not in the Quran anywhere. So, like, that is not a religious thing. So let's just stop it and have a conversation about it.
Do you know what worries me the most about this sort of stuff? It's the fact that it's becoming more common here,
Yes.
and the way that Iran
Hmm.
changed, really quickly. And I'm really concerned about what's going to happen here.
Yeah. Me
It's
too.
it's really worrying. Like, we could end up, all of us, having to be covered like that.
Well, you know, and we say this, right, Kelly, like it is mad if anybody could be just tuning into this conversation and go, oh my God, what they're talking about, you know, like they're totally trying to use fear. But I've seen it where I am. You know, I've seen it. There's a town just down the road from me in Wilmslow, and my friend lives there, and she said, like, all you see is women with the veil on. And even in Turkey now, my friend was chatting she was in Turkey at somebody's villa actually recently, and some of the women there were saying, like, it's always been secular Turkey, but it isn't anymore. You know, I don't know if you know much about Ataturk and
Yeah,
what
yeah,
happened there and all
yeah.
that.
My
And, you
dad
know,
worked there actually when I was a teenager, so we went and visited.
so you'll know about the history of it, and it was deliberately secular for all those reasons, but not anymore. They are being put, the women are being put under more and more pressure now to wear the veil. You know, and it starts with the veil, and then it gets to face coverings, and then it gets to where you can't talk, and it gets to the nobody should be telling anybody what to wear.
Yeah.
That's just the bottom line,
No.
you know. Why is it anybody's business what you wear?
So is Turkey getting worse now then?
Yeah,
I haven't
Israel's
been there for
got
a long time.
there's a Muslim government in charge,
Right, right.
but suddenly, you know, that's what's being imposed on people and on women. You know, and it's not really much fun for the men. And when they say about like Islam is the fastest growing religion, well it will be if you'll be murdered if you don't convert. And
Yeah.
that's what's happened in Iran, Afghanistan, you know, insert middle. You know, when we talk about Israel, it is the only Western democracy surrounded by these countries, and it's just
No wonder it's
terrifying.
hated.
Absolutely, and yeah, and it's for a reason. Apart from all the anti-Semitism and the Jew hatred and all that, you know, they believe in democracy and you know freedom of expression. We were like, how many churches are in Palestine? You know, like. There isn't, but there's mosques in Israel, and you know, again, that whole conversation is a different conversation about people not understanding history and
Yeah.
you know,
That's the
actually,
worrying thing, isn't it? Nobody understands history.
I saw a really great interview. You know, you get some of these YouTubers, and he was interviewing, I think it was in America, and it was people protesting for against Israel and for Palestine, and he was really clever because he was like a um, drag queens dressed like that. But he was explaining to them that he couldn't be himself in Palestine, but he could in Israel.
Mhm.
And this girl who was protesting thought that Israel was Islam. It was a Muslim country. What? Like, how can you know so little about a
They don't
country
know
that,
what
that you're
they're
protesting
talking
about?
about, yeah. And
Yeah.
that they're all in favour of Palestine, but they wouldn't last 5 minutes, any of them.
Well, they wouldn't. And I think it just, you know, it to the point of back to the gender ideology stuff, that now we live in a time when facts mean very little, you know, and it's like, well, my I feel and my facts and my truth. And it's like, there's only one truth, actually.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And there's, you know, your facts, that's not really a thing, actually.
No, there's perspectives of the truth, but there is only one truth.
There's only one truth, yeah. And we all have an obligation. I make a point of speaking to people that I disagree with
Hmm.
because I do always learn something when I chat to them. I certainly get a perspective that I didn't have. I might not agree with them, but I always think it's really important to try and understand where somebody's view comes from.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't. I spoke to, do you know Katie John Went?
Yes. I've
So
heard of him.
Katie and I had a really good chat. I interviewed him for my podcast, and he's a really interesting character because he does believe in free speech, actually, and opening dialogue. And something he said really stuck with me, and it was that you should never have a conversation with somebody with the intent to change their mind.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful because you shouldn't, you should
Yeah.
want to understand more about where their ideas come from and find that common bit of ground, because there will always be a bit of common ground somewhere.
Yeah.
But it's just which ground do you start from, to have a friendship or a conversation? And like
Yeah.
me and him both said, in the old days, you used to go down the pub and have disagreements and have a few drinks. "Well, I don't believe that," and that was it. It was finished. Like you didn't
Yeah.
used to know people's sexual orientation, politics, or any of that stuff. You rarely got into it because it was the least important things
Mhm.
about people. I would love to get us back to that point where we look at facts. We do try and dialogue with people we don't agree with because it's so important, and we just, I don't know, go and do a bit of like research, listen, switch a BBC off, maybe put a bit of GB News on. I've learned more from GB News because do you watch it?
Yeah.
A lot of people, I know and stuff are on there as well, so I like to see them. I love it. Dubes is my favourite show, but what I love about it, and what people who've never watched GB News before will go, "Oh God, GB News, it's a right wing, far right, whatever." They always have a left and a right on there. They're
Yeah, they
proper
do. They
lefties as
have
well.
to.
Yeah, but other news channels don't, and they slog it out and they debate stuff. And I again have learnt so much from listening to the left's perspective. And actually, sometimes it's like, okay, I see why you think that. You're wrong, but I see why you think it. They, or I've changed my view on something. Like I've actually thought, oh, okay, I don't have the capacity to think of it from that perspective, but I do now.
Yeah.
And I think that's really a great thing. And you can see why GB News is always trying to get shut down because they
Yeah.
spark debate.
I mean, isn't that what the BBC used to be like? They did have a different range of perspectives on it.
Yeah, I mean, the BBC, I have been I won't pay my TV licence
No, I
anymore.
cancelled mine as well.
I just told them I thought they were a bunch of anti-Semitic gender ideologues and I wasn't going to be
Mhm.
party to it, and actually I wanted a refund. And for all the years I didn't realise how bad it was. I think COVID for me was when I
Yeah.
realised that we were
Yeah.
being lied
Yeah.
to on such a grand scale.
Absolutely. It's definitely when the blinkers came off for me as well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Definitely. It was just the weirdest time.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was all. I remember someone saying, I think they just released the files that aliens were real, actually. There was aliens. I meant to look it up the other day. Aliens were then proven to be a thing. I think America had released some files, like
Yeah,
UFOs or
yeah.
whatever, that were real, that pilots had logged that couldn't explain. And then there was something else and something else. And it was like 3 conspiracy theories had all been proven to be true at that
Right.
time. And it was like, actually, a conspiracy theory is only an unproven theory, actually,
Yeah, yeah.
until you get evidence about it. And then, and then your blinkers come off.
I didn't know about the aliens one. I didn't know that had been proven.
Yeah, I know. It was very quiet. It was very quietly released that. They released a load of files in America, and it was footage and things that military had seen and recorded that there was no explanation for. So it was like, oh, right. So there are aliens. I thought there must have been, but, I
Well,
don't think
it's
there was
quite,
first contact or anything, but yeah.
yeah, it's quite, it's a big, well, we don't know how big the world, the universe, whatever you want to call it is.
Yeah.
So, and to think that we're the only planet with life is,
Crazy.
well, yeah, but it's how you come across them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially if you believe that the landing on the moon conspiracy theory that it didn't happen.
Oh, yeah, that's a thing as well, isn't there? There's the moon one. I don't
And then,
think that got disproved. 9/11, Lady Diana, Princess Diana. There was loads, actually. I mean, there still is loads, isn't there?
Yeah.
But it's just which ones get proven and which ones don't.
Yeah, the thing about the moon, though, I think that probably did happen, but it just not. They had that footage, and how on earth would they have been able to film it? So I
Well,
don't
who
think the
filmed
footage
it?
would. I don't think the footage is real, but I suspect that somebody has been to the moon.
Yeah.
But that's just a
Yeah.
theory.
I
We've
know
got no proof of that.
I've seen quite a bit of stuff about the footage, about the angle that it's recorded at and various things. I'll tell you another one. I saw a really good. It's on Prime. It's about JFK, about his that they used squibs and that the thing and his head was in the wrong place and quite interesting stuff around that. And
Yeah.
it's not out the realms of possibility. Some of the things that we know now
Yeah.
and that have been covered up,
hmm
it's absolutely
As
possible.
well, you just have to watch a range of Hollywood films to know that, like, they show you, don't they, how
They
they would
do.
behave. Like, I'm thinking of, like, Mission Impossible. So when they were
Yes.
trying to get him, they went after his parents, didn't they?
Yeah.
In Mission Impossible, and there's all those things, and it's like, all right, so you're actually telling us what you do.
Hiding in plain sight, isn't it? A lot of
Absolutely.
it. Well, they do say, don't they? And I like this saying that when somebody tells you who they are, you should
Believe them.
listen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think looking back at a lot of things, people were telling us who they are, but we weren't listening, we weren't
No.
understanding
Oh,
it.
that's just a made up story, but actually, yeah, there's a lot
But
more truth in
actually,
it.
yeah, look at Savile and all that, apparently there's a lot
God.
of what was it, Rick Mail, Mike Green, somebody else they were all murdered because they were going to blow up the conspiracy theory about
hmm
paedophiles at the BBC and stuff like that.
Probably
So
Jill Dando as well.
I think she was, yeah, I think that was her as well. There was, and again, you think, oh my God, that's crazy. But actually, it turned out there is a big paedophile ring. I know you don't think these words out for YouTube, but there is. Look at the rape gangs, look at Savile. There's loads of examples now where there was. I mean, if you look at the rape gangs, they're mass cover-ups that are still happening and are absolutely unforgivable. I mean, that is a whole other subject.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
a really good example
And they
of.
just won't stop it, will they? That's the infuriating thing.
Mhm. And I think Baroness Nichol, was it, who did the inquiry recently? Sorry, she looked into whether there should be an inquiry. I honestly believe that Keir Starmer did not think she was going to say, actually,
Yeah.
we do need an inquiry, because I think she'd done the initial one, hadn't she, into Rotherham, and I think she'd thought that everything had been put in place and there was no need. And when she actually went back and saw the word Pakistani had been Tipexed out, and she was taking this Tipex off. And it's like, why are you doing that? I think one of the daft things about that, again, anybody who's Pakistani or Muslim, right, by covering it up and talking about cohesion, that implies that all of those people are on board with the rapists, and I absolutely guarantee that they are not. But by saying, well, we didn't want to, cohesion and community cohesion and blah, 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 I would imagine most of those people would call out a gang of organised, rapists. And it's so insulting to lump those in together.
Mhm.
And again, it's just common sense. They're not the same. They're not the same people
Yeah, I
at
think there's
all.
probably a lot of fear around why people haven't, like, gone and blown it up and done the right thing, but
Yeah, well, there is, isn't there? Well, if you look at it this way, if you're a Muslim in your community and you see it going on, and you even see the white establishment covering it up, what hope have you got
yeah,
to get your
absolutely.
voice heard and not have repercussions? That's
Yeah.
that's what I always think of. And I haven't got many Muslim friends, I'll be honest, where I live and all that. But I've got a couple, and
Uh-huh.
they are utterly, genuinely mortified, appalled, and just a normal reaction that we would all have,
Yeah.
and feel so insulted that it's been covered up to not cause this, like, whatever nonsense. But it turns out the police were involved, and they were also actually involved in the the assaults and the rapes and stuff like that. And actually, that's what my husband always said. He said, I don't think it is community cohesion. I think it's the police covering their own backsides. Hopefully, you'll be able to air this chat, Kelly, without it being completely
I
censored.
tend not
and
to
doing
keep.
what we want.
I haven't noticed that it's affected so far my channel, but I don't know. I'm still quite new, so I'm still learning, and I don't know how to bleep them out. But I'll have to learn, won't I?
Yeah, if you need a hand, let me know.
Okay,
You
brilliant.
can just bleep over it. I'd hate for it to be, yeah.
Yeah, well, Penny, it's been lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on. Before we wrap up, have you got anything that you want to promote?
Gosh, I wasn't expecting that. Well, do you know what? I haven't necessarily. I am in the middle of writing my next book, which is about relationships, actually. But I'm in that difficult second book phase, so nothing as such. But you know what? I would like to just say to people to just use your voice and,
Yeah,
just be proud to be you and be a woman or a man and speak your truth. The
absolutely.
truth.
The truth. Speak the
Yeah,
truth.
that's it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And
Thanks for having me, Kelly.